In Romans 9:6-7, Paul delves into the nature of true Israel and the fulfillment of Yah's promises. He clarifies that not all who are descended from Israel are part of the true Israel. This distinction is pivotal in understanding how the chosen status and promises to Israel are maintained. Paul's discourse suggests that the covenant and promises Yah made with Israel are indeed still in effect. However, they are realized and applied specifically to those within Israel who are followers of the Messiah. This reflects a nuanced view where the physical descent from Israel alone does not guarantee inclusion in the promises made to Abraham and his descendants. Instead, it is faith in Messiah that marks the true heirs of these promises. Paul uses the example of Isaac over Ishmael to illustrate that Yah's promises are conveyed through a line of promise chosen by Yah himself rather than through mere physical descent. This principle underscores that within the broader ethnic group of Israel, a deeper spiritual lineage is identified through faith in Messiah. This lineage is considered the fulfillment of Yah's promises to Israel, embodying the true Israel that Paul speaks of. For Gentiles, Paul's argument presents them as beneficiaries of the covenant with Israel, albeit in a manner akin to third-party beneficiaries. While the covenant is with the nation of Israel, Gentiles who place their faith in Messiah gain access to the blessings and promises of this covenant. This does not mean that Gentiles replace Israel or that the promises to Israel are nullified. Rather, it indicates that through faith in Messiah, Gentiles are grafted into the spiritual heritage of Israel, sharing in the blessings promised to Abraham and his spiritual descendants. This perspective maintains a distinction between the promises made to Israel and those extended to the Gentiles through faith. It underscores the continuity of Yah's covenant with Israel, affirming Israel's unique status as the chosen people through whom Yah's redemptive plan is unfolded. At the same time, it opens a pathway for Gentiles to partake in the blessings of the covenant, not by replacing Israel, but by joining the ranks of the faithful within the broader framework of Yah's redemptive purposes. Therefore, the covenant with Israel remains central, with the followers of Messiah within Israel being the primary participants in the promises of Yah. Gentiles, through faith in Messiah, are welcomed into this covenantal relationship as beneficiaries, illustrating the expansive nature of Yah's mercy and the inclusive reach of his redemptive plan. This model preserves the integrity of the original covenant with Israel while also demonstrating the manifold wisdom of Yah in extending his grace to all nations through faith in Yahshua. Importance of bloodline and the remnant. Romans 9:6-8. For not all who are descended from Israel are Israel, nor because they are his descendants are they all Abraham's children. On the contrary, it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. In other words, it is not the children by physical descent who are Yah's children, but it is the children of the promise who are regarded as Abraham's offspring. This passage affirms the importance of bloodline within the context of Yah's promise, highlighting a distinction between physical descent and being considered part of the promise. Romans 11:5. So too at the present time there is a remnant chosen by grace. Paul acknowledges that within Israel there is a remnant chosen by grace, indicating that among the ethnic descendants, those who are of faith are set apart. Faith and the seed of the promise. Galatians 3:7. Understand then that those who have faith are children of Abraham. Paul extends the concept of being Abraham's children beyond ethnic lineage to include those of faith, indicating that faith is a critical factor in identifying with the promise made to Abraham. Galatians 3:28-29. There is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Messiah Yahshua. If you belong to Messiah, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. Here Paul emphasizes that union with Messiah through faith is the defining characteristic of the true descendants of Abraham, transcending ethnic distinctions. The role of Israel's fall and Gentile inclusion. Romans 11:11-12. Again I ask, did they stumble so as to fall beyond recovery? Not at all. Rather, because of their transgression, salvation has come to the Gentiles to make Israel envious. But if their transgression means riches for the world, and their loss means riches for the Gentiles, how much greater riches will their full inclusion bring? Paul discusses how Israel's transgression served to open the way for Gentile inclusion, but he also looks forward to a future where Israel's full inclusion will bring even greater blessings. Ephesians 2:11-13. Therefore remember that formerly you who are Gentiles by birth and called uncircumcised by those who call themselves the circumcision, which is done in the body by human hands. Remember that at that time you were separate from Messiah, excluded from citizenship in Israel, and foreigners to the covenants of the promise, without hope and without Yah in the world. But now in Messiah Yahshua, you who once were far away have been brought near by the blood of Messiah. This passage acknowledges the initial separation of Gentiles from the covenants of promise, but highlights how, through Messiah, they are brought near. From these scriptures, it's clear that Paul acknowledges the continued importance of Israel's bloodline in relation to Yah's promises, but also introduces a broader spiritual dimension where faith in Messiah becomes the means by which both Jews and Gentiles alike can become part of Abraham's offspring and heirs to the promise, sons of Yah. This duality does not negate the significance of Israel's ethnic lineage, but places the emphasis on faith as the mechanism through which the promises to Abraham are fulfilled and extended. Israel's promised rulership. Isaiah 60:12. For the nation or kingdom that will not serve you will perish. It will be utterly ruined. This verse speaks directly to the prophesied dominion of Israel over the nations, highlighting a future where Israel's prominence among the nations is restored. Daniel 7:27. Then the sovereignty, power, and greatness of all the kingdoms under heaven will be handed over to the saints, chosen, the people of the Most High, Israelites. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all rulers will worship and obey him. While this prophecy can be seen as inclusive of the saints in a broad sense, it's rooted in the vision of Israel's restoration and preeminence. Looking back at their restoration as a nation, Ezekiel 37 and Isaiah 60, fulfillment in the New Testament. Revelation 5:10, you have made them to be a kingdom and priests to serve our Yah, and they will reign on the earth. This vision aligns with the Old Testament promises of a kingdom of priests promised to Israel, which ties back to 1 Peter 2:9. Revelation 2:26-27, to the one who is victorious and does my will to the end, I will give authority over the nations. He will rule them with an iron scepter and will dash them to pieces like pottery, just as I have received authority from my Father. While this promise is given in a context that includes messages to the assemblies, which comprise both Jew and Gentile believers, it's essential to recognize that the concept of ruling with Messiah is rooted in the fulfillment of promises made to Israel, aligning with the Old Testament and Israelite eschatological expectations. Clarification on Gentile believers. The New Testament, particularly in Paul's letters, emphasizes the inclusion of Gentiles into the spiritual blessings of Israel through faith in Messiah. This inclusion does not equate to the same promises of national sovereignty and rulership that were specifically made to Israel concerning dominion over nations. Ephesians 2:12-13. Remember that at that time you were separate from Messiah, excluded from citizenship in Israel, and foreigners to the covenants of the promise, without hope and without Yah in the world. But now in Messiah Yahshua, you who once were far away have been brought near by the blood of Messiah. This passage highlights the spiritual inclusion of Gentiles into the blessings of Israel without specifically stating that the political or earthly promises to Israel, such as rulership over nations, are transferred to Gentiles. Conclusion. The promises of rulership and dominion found in the Old Testament and echoed in the New Testament are tied to Israel's covenantal relationship with Yah and are part of the eschatological hope for Israel's restoration and preeminence among the nations. The inclusion of Gentiles into the body of the Messiah grants them access to spiritual blessings and a shared inheritance in the kingdom of Yah, but does not reinterpret the specific national and covenantal promises made to Israel regarding rulership. This distinction is crucial for understanding the continuity and fulfillment of Yah's promises to Israel and the unique role that believing Israelites play in the eschatological vision presented in Scripture.